culture, like
Yeah,
struggles coming here and the refugees. This one will just mainly talk about the cultural differences between Somali and what influences the Somali culture, and we'll talk briefly. For example, you guys were not in the article. I'll just go over quick about the history and the refugee camps where a lot of the kids are from. Go over a little bit about the education system, and then we'll concentrate on the religion and the culture part. And the big thing is the most common do's and don'ts as far as culturally. So, little history. Somalia is located, for those of you that have seen the map of Africa, it's 50 countries, but you got the 3 countries that are important in our presentation or in our kits. Somalia is located in the Horn of Africa, that little 7. And this Ethiopia is next to it, and then there's Kenya there. So, Somalia got its independence in 1960 from Italy. And 1960 to 1967, a president came to power. And then 1967 to 1969, there was a second president. And then 69 was when Siad Barre, the dictator, came to power. That's when Somalia started going to decline. That's 69. The war started in 1991, we'll get to it. But 69 was when everything started. Why? Because he was a dictator, he was oppressive to different clans. As some of you might know, we usually give our affiliation to tribal, not the government. We're usually connected through religious and clans and tribal, and he was oppressive to that. So, and then 99% of the Somalis are Muslim, and about 70% of the Somalis or students that you guys have some kind of background as a nomadic way of life. That's basic survival. You survive. You move from one place to another. And how is that important? Because a lot of the kids that we have parents that their priority is work, and then education is important, but it's not one of the priorities. Work is, and that's survival. 1991 was when the Civil War started. From 69 to 1991, that Siad Barre was the president, and a lot of the clans, a lot of the a lot of the opposition clans, a lot of the communities that he was oppressing came together and said, we need to overthrow this guy, otherwise, it's a disaster. Then he was overthrown, and then came the clans, those same clans that overthrew him, did not agree on who's going to be a president, because as Somalis, we have different clans. We have 5 major ones, but we have different clans, and those different clans, elders, did not agree on who's going to take power. Each clan said, I'm the majority, I'll take, the president is going to come from our clan, or our tribe. The next clan said, no, it's us. Then that's when everything went to chaos. That's when Somalia, that's the last time we had a government. And then here on, the war is going on in 1991. So you had basically 3 options. You either, your life was at balance, 50-50. You had 3 options. You either walked to refugee camps in Ethiopia, or you walked to refugee camps 200, 300 miles to Kenya, or you chose to stay in Somalia. Like Muhammad stayed in Somalia. My family chose to walk 200 miles to Kenya in refugee camps, where on the way there while walking, my older sister and my younger sister died. And we'll talk about him.
Well, actually my family, I was raised by a single mother, so my mother decided to stay in put because it was hard for a single mother to try to take 3 kids on the run. So the best decision she made was to just stay in put and just hope that no one breaks it in or no one comes in. So that's what my mom did. And my dad actually got assassinated 2 weeks before I was even born, because he was military. He was a very high rank in the military, so he got assassinated 2 weeks before I was born.
So he was probably part of the government of that dictator.
Yeah.
So that's so those are the 3 options that we had. The refugee camps usually are, not the best. A lot of the kids that we have in Roosevelt, Kennedy, or in the schools here are from refugee camps from Kenya, Ethiopia, or Somalia. Like, for example, I spent 12 years of my life in the refugee camps, and usually it's harsh life, you know, hot, you know, there's not much hope, days are longer, you're surrounded by a barbed wire, and you're given food 15 days, every 15 days by the United Nations, and no running water, and it's overpopulated, a lot of kids, no schools. There's some schools that are UN sponsored, United Nations pays for them, but they're overcrowded. Like I went to those schools and you would see 60 kids in one class. Lack of resources and not the best facilities there. So the refugee camps were really harsh on these kids. And most of the kids that we have in this schools, Kennedy and Roosevelt, have not seen a school setting. Usually they will go to a religious school, Duxie, but not, you know, they were not old enough to go to those schools.
Education system, culture, education policy, and taking out of poverty. So most of the kids, parents, most parents want their kids to be educated. They want to get the best of education while they're here. They try and encourage them while they work. They spend 10 or 12-hour shift a day trying to support the kids. So when they get in trouble, the kids can become the parents become very emotional because they don't want to, you know, they're working all this, you know, 12-hour shift and they're kind of wasting their time. They keep reminding them that you have the best possibility, opportunity that you have. So, you know, use this wisely and utilize all this opportunity that you have. So parents do become very emotional when they hear their kids are not behaving, or even when they grow up, they're messing up and they get into troubles. Due to lack of language skills, parents have limited capacity to help their children with their schoolwork. So parents are not much help when it comes to schoolwork, but they are there for financially wise, trying to take care of them.
Like I said, survival is the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
Education is important, but parents work. A lot of the parents in Willmar work at genuine second shift from 4 o'clock to 1 o'clock. So when by the time the kids get home, parents are not there. They go to work. By the time they get back, their kids are sleeping, and usually the parents sleep then. And the kids wake up by themselves, get ready, and then go to school. So there's lack of parent involvement due to that. And, you know, parents know that education is important, but lack of education background, and you know, trying to work 10, 12-hour shifts.
They usually have an option when they're working 12, what shift they want to work. You know, the evening, either way you get hired for, which you apply. Usually they will like the morning ones so they can be more involved with the kids. But then, I mean, unfortunately, some of them have to have the evening shift because that's the only opening they have. So either no work or you work the evening shift. Some parents get both shifts, where other parents they get one-on-one. So, education. The difference between the education system between here in the U.S. and back in Somalia. Basically, to summarize it, the U.S. is usually, you know, it's free from K through 12, whereas in Somalia you start from scratch. So you actually pay for your education, and usually not many, you know, most of the parents is they usually the ones that can afford it, they take their kids to, you know, school and stuff like that. But majority of them can't really afford it. However, on the other hand, where religious school, which is Duxie, they learn about the Quran, they learn about the religion and all that stuff. Whereas it's less. You pay some, but it's very cheap, pretty much. If you can't afford it, they will teach you anyways. So that's one of the reasons why many of the kids here they're quick to pick up Arabic. It's easy for them to learn pick up the Arabic right away because that's the only language they can actually recite in the Quran. So it's easy for them. So most of these kids that you guys are teaching, they're probably, you know, they already know the Arabic, or they're able to like recite by themselves, or they're in the process of learning it.
They were not old enough to go to school in the refugee camps, but they went to Duxie, religious schools where they learned Arabic and the Quran equal to the Bible. But when they come here, that's all new to them. The school, you know, those kids at Roosevelt that came in here, the school environment is new to them.
And what Arabic letters actually look like was in the beginning here. In the end, Arabic letters, they use Bismillah in the name of God. And this one is also different in Arabic. So most of all these kids will be there. And then every chapter before you start, they can start off with this right here. Religion is part and parcel of the average individual family and life. Religious materials and leaders are respected. Basically, within the community, they're well respected, like the elders. The religious one usually makes decisions for the community. If there's a decision that needs to be made. Religion is both private and public affair. Jamaat prayer, usually, for example, I think you guys go to Sunday, right? Worship Sunday. For us, it's usually Friday. It's always a Friday, actually. So we'll have Friday prayer, and that's the days. That's our day for like worship, basically, pretty much.
Religion basically is the typical Somali life is influenced, or culture is influenced by their religion, Islam. So,
Huge.
yeah, it's huge in part of the life, our lives.
Prayers, especially the 5 daily ones, are offered wherever the worship happens to be, whether you're at work or where you're at there. It doesn't matter where you're at. If you're at a football game, it doesn't matter. If it's time to pray, you start with that. Basically, that time to pray is basically that's the time for you to communicate with God, basically. And you spend that 3-4 minutes communicating with God. And if how we see it in religion is like if you can't spend that 3-4 minutes of your 24 hours a day, then because God is going to give us everything, you should be able to give Him the 3-4 minutes a day. So we spend 5 times, we communicate with God 5 times a day. And sometimes some of the prayers they start from 6 a.m. Sometimes depending on time. Right now, one of the early morning prayer is at 5:45, I believe, at 5:45, and the other one is at 12:30, and the other one is 3:30. The other one's about 6:15, and that one's 8 o'clock. So 5 prayers, and those 5 prayers you must pray. If you're up at the age of after 15, you have to pray. That's why parents is trying to teach their kids before they become 15. Try to teach them all they need to know, because once they become 15, you'll be making decisions on yourself, and how you'll basically all the decisions you make, you'll be accountable for it. So, and then usually parents are upset. Some kids they do make some bad choices, but that's when parents becomes upset because they spend all their 15 years of life trying to teach them the right things, as far as the parent role.
Culture, our Somali culture, like I said, is influenced by religion. It's based on Islam, and some of it is based on Western culture. Like I said, I think we're at a period where a lot of the immigrants of the country, to the United States, went through that period that and then they adapted to it, and then the next generation, and we have your generation, and then there's another generation, where we feel we're at that stage now, where a lot of the parents are first generation are coming now, and then our generation and the kids that you guys are teaching and their kids will pretty much be Americanized. Or
even the difference is like with our older generation, people were here before. With our generation right now, we're adapting to the Western culture a lot faster. Where you will see Somali girls who are they don't have their hair covered, they wear pants, which is not acceptable in Islam, in the religion of Islam. Where nowadays we're adapting too quick to the Westernized.
Yeah, women are supposed to wear those long dresses and cover their head. If you go to bigger cities like Minneapolis, bigger cities, you would see some Somali women wearing jeans and typical. It depends on where you're at. For example, in Willmar, if you see a Somali woman wearing jeans, you won't see that. But I mean, if you see, it's kind of you would feel shy, or you would change.
Yeah, it's because it's a smaller community and everybody's where you weren't well typically. Where in the cities, it's huge cities, and most of those parents, the kids that do wear this stuff, they're most likely they're unhappy with them because that's not something they know there's something wrong. So those are the things, and that's like when the parents do know that once after 15 you do make individual choices, and that's basically between you and God now. But parents still try to encourage them to try to tell them what they're doing is wrong, and they need to start doing the right things. And man after my typical Western type of clothes is just normal. I'm also on Friday prayers. During Fridays it's usually different. We wear something called khamis, which is more like Islamic, which I'm not sure. At Roosevelt, I think I wore the last 2 Fridays. I wore khamis. I don't know if you guys see me there. But that's usually the guys wear that, and it's for Friday prayers. Even you not always have to wear Fridays, but you can wear it in public on Mondays and Tuesdays and stuff like that. Sometimes in the public, depending on how my mood is or the day, I usually wear it. So I try to keep it because the people that would usually wear that, more of like the wiser they are. And you start wearing back in my days, when my younger days, I didn't used to wear that. But now I've become more wiser and try to, study more of Islam. I want to like commit my times and all. I start my free times to more of religion and learn more about it, the more wiser I become.
For those of you that don't know, is that it's a long dress that typically men wear on Fridays, and it's mandatory to wear on Fridays. You can wear other days, but Fridays are usually.
Yeah, you go to the mosque and you pray with it. Yes.
So what, like the boys in our school don't wear, like the students?
Of
What
15,
age do you
like
see?
usually, like even the weekends they wear that. And when they go to Deuces, some of them wear it. But during the school year, it's kind of harder for them because they're probably been active in the
Right,
gym.
right.
Where during the weekdays, not like when you're like in sports and stuff like that. So some parents get on Friday, they actually have, they all have one, they wear it. So, but it's hard for them in school. So, and at work, and obviously work environment, stuff like that. So I wear it on Friday here, it's casual here, but I would typically wear it to the ER where I work.